It was my 21st birthday, the kind of milestone that's supposed to feel like you've finally cracked into proper adulthood. I'd woken up buzzing in our cramped Sydney flat, the smell of Mum's bacon and eggs drifting down the hall like a promise. I reckon Dad might have organised something decent for once, maybe a barbie out the back with the uncles cracking tinnies, or hell, even the keys to a second-hand ute parked in the driveway with a big red bow. He'd been dropping hints for weeks about making a man out of me, so I let myself hope. Instead, I shuffled into the kitchen in my footy shorts and thongs, still rubbing sleep from my eyes, and there he was. Dad, sitting at the chipped laminate table, arms crossed, that hard smirk plastered across his face like he'd just backed the winner at Randwick. No cake, no happy birthday, champ. Just a thick manila envelope slapped down in front of me so hard the salt shaker jumped. Sign these, kid, he said, voice flat as bitumen. Disownment papers. You're 21 now, old enough to fend for yourself. I've had a gutful of your lazy, good-for-nothing ways. The words hit like a king hit to the ribs. My brain stalled. Mum, who'd been flipping eggs at the stove, froze mid-turn. The spatula clattered to the floor. Her face drained white, eyes darting between us like she was watching a car crash in slow motion. Greg, she whispered, voice cracking, you can't be serious. It's his birthday. Dad didn't even blink. Dead set. He's been mooching off us long enough. Uni dropout, no proper job, always chasing bloody pipe dreams. Time he learned what the real world's like. I stared at the papers, black ink swimming on the page. Clause after clause spelling out how I was no longer his son, no claim to the house, no inheritance, nothing. My chest squeezed so tight I could barely draw breath. This was the same bloke who'd carried me on his shoulders through the waves at Bondi when I was 6, who cheered like a madman when I scored the try in under-15s footy. The same hands that had steadied my first shaky surfboard now shoving me out the door like yesterday's rubbish. My sister burst through the doorway then, still in her pajamas, hair wild. She'd heard the raised voices. Dad, what the hell? You're kicking Alex out. On his birthday. Tears were already spilling down her cheeks. You're a mongrel. The kitchen felt smaller, the air thick and sour. Mum started sobbing quietly, clutching the tea towel like a lifeline. Dad just leaned back, smug, waiting for me to crack. Every second stretched into agony, heart hammering, throat burning, mind screaming questions I couldn't voice. Was this real? Had he hated me this long and I'd been too blind to see it? Or was it some twisted test I was failing right now? I reached for the papers with trembling fingers, not sure if I was going to sign, tear them, or hurl them back in his face. All I knew was the betrayal cut deeper than any knife, and the family I thought I had was splintering right in front of me. I couldn't tear my eyes off the papers. The black print blurred as my heart slammed against my ribs like a jackhammer tearing up concrete on the M5. Each clause felt like a fresh slap, irrevocable severance, no further financial obligation, relinquishment of all familial rights. My name, Alex Thompson, typed out neat and cold at the bottom, waiting for my signature to make it official. I was 21 today, supposed to be celebrating, not getting erased. My little sister Mia crashed back into the room like a storm, still in her faded Mickey Mouse pajamas, hair a tangled mess from sleep. She'd heard the shouting from her bedroom. Dad, what the actual fuck? She screamed, voice cracking high. Tears streamed down her face instantly. You're kicking Alex out. On his birthday. You're a bloody mongrel. He's your son, your only son. Mum dropped the tea towel completely now, hands shaking as she stepped between us. Greg, please, she begged, voice thick with sobs. Think about what you're doing. We're family. He's our boy. You can't just throw him away like this. Her eyes were red-rimmed, pleading with the man she'd married 25 years ago, the one who used to dance her around the lounge to old crowded house tunes. Dad didn't budge. He leaned back in the chair, arms crossed tight over his chest, face set like the red rock out in the Flinders Ranges, unmovable, ancient, unforgiving. Family, he snorted. Family doesn't mean carrying dead weight forever. He dropped out of uni after one semester, spends his days mucking about with that camera gear, dreaming he's gonna be the next Baz Luhrmann. No trade, no apprenticeship, no bloody plan. I've given him chances, more than I ever got. Enough's enough. Every word landed like a boot to the guts. The kitchen clock ticked louder than it ever had, each second stretching into a lifetime. My throat closed up so tight I could barely swallow. Where would I go? Crash on a mate's couch till they got sick of me? Sleep in the back of the old Corolla? The thought of rocking up to Centrelink with nothing but a backpack made my stomach churn. I pictured myself wandering King's Cross at night, another lost kid with nowhere to belong. The betrayal burned deeper with every breath. Why today? Why turn my birthday into an execution? Had he been planning this for months, waiting for me to hit some magic age where it had hurt the most? Mum's quiet crying filled the silence between us, and Mia kept whispering, "Please, Dad, don't do this," over and over like a broken record. I felt the walls of the flat closing in, the familiar smell of bacon now turning sour in my nose. Anger started bubbling up under the shock, hot, sharp, dangerous. My hands clenched into fists on the table. Part of me wanted to flip the whole bloody table, send the papers flying. Another part just wanted to run, get out before the tears I was fighting spilled over and gave him the satisfaction of seeing me break. But I stayed rooted, staring him down, chest heaving. The family I'd always counted on was cracking apart right here on chipped lino, and the only thing holding me together was the rage starting to replace the hurt. My hands were still trembling on the edge of the table, knuckles white, when my phone buzzed violently against the chipped lino. I snatched it up, ready to hurl it across the room or dial a mate for a couch to crash on, anything to escape this suffocating kitchen. The screen showed an unknown Sydney number, all digits and no name, the kind that usually means spam or debt collectors. I almost swiped to ignore it, but something, maybe desperation, made me answer. "G'day, is this Alex Thompson?" The voice on the other end was deep, polished, the sort of tone you hear from blokes in boardrooms wearing $1,000 suits. No warmth, just business. "Yeah, who's this?" My own voice came out rough, cracked from holding back the tears I refused to let Dad see. "This is Richard Hargrove, CEO of Thompson Mining Corporation. Your grandfather's company. Sorry to interrupt your day, mate, but we've been trying to reach you." My heart slammed into overdrive. Grandad, Pop, had built that mining outfit from a couple of rusty drills in the Pilbara back in the 70s. He'd passed last year, quiet and sudden from a heart thing, and left the lot to Dad in the will reading. Or so we'd all been told. Dad had strutted around for months like he'd won the bloody lottery, talking about selling off chunks and retiring early to the Gold Coast. Mum's head snapped up from where she'd been staring at the floor, eyes wide and glistening. Mia stopped mid-sob, mouth open. Dad's smirk flickered, just for a second, like a light bulb about to blow. "What's this about?" I managed, throat so dry it hurt. "We've had a sealed codicil, an addendum to the will, sitting in our vault since Pop passed. It was only to be opened if certain conditions were met. One of them just triggered." Hargrove paused, letting the words sink in. "Your father attempted to formally disown you today. That clause activates now. Pop left you 49% controlling shares in Thompson Mining, with a pathway to majority if disownment proceedings were initiated by Gregory Thompson. There's also a personal letter for you." The kitchen went dead silent except for the hum of the fridge. Mum's hand flew to her mouth. Mia let out a choked gasp that was half laugh, half cry. Dad's face drained of color so fast it looked like someone had pulled the plug. His arms uncrossed, hands dropping limp to his sides. What the hell is this?" he stammered, voice suddenly small. "That's not, Pop wouldn't." Hargrove kept going, "Calm as you like. We've got the documents scanned and ready to email, plus instructions for the share transfer. Grandad was very clear, he wanted to protect you from exactly this sort of thing. Said in the letter he'd seen the writing on the wall years ago." Tension crackled through the room like static before a storm. I could feel it in my fingertips, in the way the air seemed thicker. Dad stared at me, not with anger now, but something closer to fear. Had Pop really predicted this? Seen the resentment building in his own son and built a safety net for the grandson? My mind reeled. All those quiet afternoons Pop and I spent on his old veranda in the Blue Mountains, him teaching me about rocks and leases while Dad called it wasting time. Turns out, it wasn't wasted at all. I looked up at Dad, phone still pressed to my ear. The betrayal that had been carving me hollow flipped inside out. Now it was his turn to feel the ground shift. The CEO's voice cut through again. "Alex, you there? We need your confirmation to proceed." I swallowed hard, pulse roaring in my ears. "Yeah," I said, louder than I meant. "I'm here." The room held its breath. The silence in the kitchen was so thick you could have cut it with a butter knife. Dad's face had gone the color of old dishwater, mouth opening and closing like a stranded flathead. "That's bullshit," he finally croaked, but the fight had leaked out of him. Pop wouldn't pull that sort of stunt. He left it all to me, fair and square. I kept the phone pressed to my ear, Richard Hargrove's calm voice still rumbling through. "We've got the original codicil right here, Greg. Dated 3 years back, witnessed by 2 solicitors and the family accountant. Pop was crystal clear: if you ever tried to disown Alex, legally, formally, on paper, the controlling interest shifts. He said he'd watched you turn bitter over the years, and he wasn't about to let you take the boy down with you. Mum let out a shaky laugh that was half sob, half disbelief. She reached over and squeezed my arm so hard it hurt, but in the best way. Mia was grinning through tears now, bouncing on her toes like she'd just won the lottery herself. Holy shit, Alex, you're the boss. Like, actual CEO material. I looked down at the disownment papers still sitting between us on the table. My hand moved before my brain caught up. I grabbed the pen Dad had left there, the same one he'd used to sign birthday cards back when he still gave a damn, and scrawled my name across the bottom in big, deliberate strokes. The scratch of ink on paper sounded like a door slamming shut. Here, I said, shoving the stack back across the table at him. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Sign the bloody things yourself if you want. But know this, the second I walk out that door with these, you're done at Thompson Mining. No office, no company car, no fat dividend checks. Pack your crap from the executive floor by Friday. Dad stared at the papers like they'd grown fangs. His hands shook as he reached for them, then pulled back. You little shit, he muttered, but there was no venom left, just defeat. He shoved his chair back so hard it scraped the tiles, then stood there swaying like a man who'd just been told the house was on fire and he'd lit the match. Mum stepped forward, voice soft but steel hard. Greg, you did this. You rolled the dice on your own son and lost. Now live with it. Mia whooped, throwing her arms around me in a tackle hug that nearly knocked me over. You legend. Pop had your back the whole time. I hugged her back, then pulled Mum in too. The 3 of us stood there, a messy knot of tears and relief, while Dad slunk toward the hallway without another word. The front door clicked shut behind him a minute later, quiet, final. Hargrove was still on the line. Alex, we'll courier the transfer docs and Pop's letter this arvo. Welcome aboard, mate. Your grandfather would be bloody proud. I ended the call, chest heaving. Outside, the Sydney sun was climbing higher, turning the flat into a furnace. But inside, the air felt lighter, cleaner. I wasn't the family failure anymore. I never had been. Dad had just been too blind to see it. Justice didn't taste like champagne or victory laps. It tasted like a cold VB on a 40-degree day after years in the desert, sharp, sweet, and long overdue.